yeah, you put anyone in a room for 2 years and they're going to find some fucking demons. I guarantee you that.
Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Belgian Jasper. If this is your first time in the channel, hit subscribe right now. Joshua, today is the big day as we're talking, at least, the new album is out now. Before we go into everything that we can talk about, like what are you feeling right now? You seem very calm and quiet and relaxed. Is that because it's finally here and you can breathe, or are you really just burning up inside with excitement?
Yeah, it's always interesting with these types of things because a lot of time as creatives, the process of having the art finished, then the art getting into the world can take so long, and your relationship changes to it over time. So it's so strange to imagine people hearing these songs for the first time.
Yeah,
because they almost are old in my head. They've been around for ages. So it's definitely really, really exciting. Super grateful for everyone that's helped us get to the point of being able to put it out there. All of the team that's been involved in it. It's been a really good process, and we're really excited. All the boys are very, very excited to have this out in the world and get a bit of feedback from people who are listening to it.
No love, no Christmas. You did yours, now stay down, listen up. They want us giving up.
now you were able to get some of that feedback already. You guys, let's just say, exploded out of the pandemic the last few months. It was a bit of a roller coaster, which I assume climaxed with your show at Download. Walk me through, just kind of the experience of the last few months.
Yeah, so I mean, even going back to the time in which the album was recorded, obviously it was at the height of the pandemic. There was so much uncertainty, and the band was put in a position where we had to go back home. We had come over here to try and chase this dream of being in a band and doing this music stuff, and realizing that that was going to have to come to a halt and that we were going to be forced to go home was difficult on everybody. But then during that period, we were able to sort of forge something out of that uncertainty and use it to our advantage in a way. We were able to kind of create with a level of freedom that I don't think that we would have had otherwise, and really carve something out that we were all really proud of. And yeah, during that period, there was so many things, from having to drive 8 hours every weekend to come to practices because we were splayed out around New Zealand, to getting back over here, doing all the stuff that we've done, going to the UK. And yeah, like you said, there was definitely the climax at Download where it was like, man, we've made it onto a lineup like this somehow. And we're just a bunch of Kiwi boys from small towns in a little country at the bottom of the world. So it's awesome to be able to have these experiences and do what we're doing, and we're all so excited about it.
We see you bring, at times poppy and hip hop influences, electronica, mixing that together with new metal and core influences, and kind of creating a very vibrant cocktail. In metal, that is something that is at the same time being applauded, and sometimes I can also, can hold you back, and you guys are not afraid also to kind of push some of the buttons of gatekeepers and haters. I think you described yourself on Instagram as a heavy metal boy band.
Yeah.
Is it just a simple fact that today hard rock music is not colorful enough?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, but it's also different because I think that we came up in a generation where the internet and the way that we consume music changed as we grew older. So we were kind of right in that period. Like the band kind of spans from 25, most of us around 25, and then Jason is 30. But we were all in that period where we listened to music prior to streaming platforms. And so we came up listening to bands like Metallica, and I loved My Chemical Romance, and then we listened to all the core bands, and we went through that. But then as we got older, like I just started listening to hip hop and pop music and all the stuff that became like the main music that I listened to. And I think when you talk to people, it's not abnormal to have somebody listening to the new Loathe record and then also listening to the new Billie Eilish record on repeat, and that being in their top 10 at the end of the year. That's me. That doesn't seem like a weird thing to me at all. And so for somebody who's consuming all that music, and I'm expressing myself through music, I kind of reached a point where I'm like, well, it makes sense that I would draw on all these influences and wear them 100% instead of just trying to like do them, but in a metalcore way. It's like, no, this is just this type of section.
Yeah.
I like this. This is how I feel inside. This is how I want to express myself and what I connect with in other artists. So that's what I'm going to put out. And I feel like that's something that we've tried to do on this record, and going on into all the future stuff that we're creating. It's becoming a cemented part of what Banks Arcade is.
Do you see then also that you're attracting people from very different subcultures and styles?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that that'll happen. I mean, a lot of that has to do with how the music is packaged and how it's consumed. If you go into the record thinking I'm listening to a metalcore record, then some of the songs that are less like that might taint the rest of the record. However, let's say we bait someone in with a song like Wine, and they listen to that and they're like, oh, I like these guys. And then because they look at it through that lens, they see the record differently. They see it through different glasses because they're like, oh, this is a band that has songs that sound like this that's now doing something heavy. Whereas someone who comes from the other angle will be like, oh, this is a band who does songs like Wine, even though they're a heavy band. So I think that, yeah, depending upon what angle people come at the music, it'll be perceived very differently. And I think that that's interesting, and I think that that's cool. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it's an album where, like, when I'm talking to people, someone will be like, man, this is the song, this is the one that I love, and like, you guys need to do more stuff like this. But so many different people say that about a different song. Like, man, this is the one. And I'm happy about that, and I want to create albums that do that. And I think that this album, I expected this album to alert us to the industry. I never expected this album to just like blow people off their feet immediately.
Yeah.
I think that the reaction will be one of interest and confusion. Like, kind of like, I don't really know if I like this or what's going on here, but there's something about it. And I think that as people get to see the bigger picture, and as we follow on with more releases, what we're trying to do will click for people, and then they will love this for a long time.
You're trying to be famous, took a wrong turn, but I hope we make it. I can't see the future, but I hope that we can change it.
You can try to do all this crazy stuff and write this complex poetry that, like, but at the end of the day, people like love songs, they like sad songs, they like songs that are about the things that they feel and that are the kind of simple human emotions. And I feel like that's what we connect with is a lot of simplicity in our music. And on this album, I feel like I definitely found a point at which I started to be able to express things exactly as they were, with no effort to try and force a sound, or oh, I'm doing this because I want it to sound like this. It was more so, I'm doing this because this is how I feel. And that's what's coming out of the music. And I think that's a pretty cool experience where you can have that as a creative. And then the next layer to that is, if you're able to do that, that's great. That's amazing. If you're then able to do that and someone else is able to listen to it and feel it, and then they can have that experience as well, that's when it's like something magical. And then they say, man, I feel this. And then you feel seen and they feel seen. And that's what art's meant to do, is bring people together and kind of transcend that isolation of consciousness that we're all locked in our own heads, and connect us to someone else, where we have this new form of language that we can actually see that, oh, someone does feel like me, no matter how big and strong or how cool someone looks up on a stage, or someone does this, or no matter what anyone does, we're all just the same. We're all just trying to figure stuff out. And I feel like people relate to that, and that's why music and art is so good for the world.
Fuck the world and forget it!
So when it comes to, catharsis, if you will, and dealing with demons, what is better for you? Like doing a gig or fighting a wrestling match?
I think in terms of catharsis, I would have to say fighting. I just came from training this morning. To me, martial arts is like a massive part of my life, and there is a certain purity to it. I feel like this music thing for me is so deeply ingrained in my psyche as to what I'm trying to achieve and what I'm trying to do. Like, I remember the key moment when I was like 12 years old and I sprinted home being like, I'm going to be a rock star. I'm going to be in a band. And I was like, I knew the moment. And I remember thinking as a kid, I was like, this is going to be the first scene of the movie they make about me. And I'm going to be running as this little kid, like running along, and like vivid memories like that across my life of this thing that I've kind of built into me to do. And there's positives about having that kind of drive and ambition and solidarity with what you're trying to achieve, but then there's also a lot of negatives, and a lot of those anxieties and stuff can start to play into your self-worth, trying to do something that much and putting so much importance on something. And that's why you see so many big athletes, people who've tried their whole life to get to the Olympics, or musicians, they get to that point and then they're not fulfilled, and so it can be hard to have balance. Whereas with something like fighting, for me, I feel like is a practice that I'm able to engage in no matter where I am. I find a way to engage with that practice and challenge myself physically and mentally for no reason other than just to challenge myself and be a better person. And it's something that I want to encourage anyone to be able to go out and do that, because I've found so much benefit from it, and I think that it has such potential to empower and to give one a better relationship with themselves.
I think if I pinpoint one song where that message comes out, I think it would be the song Smile, that you guys have. Yeah, on the surface, and in that direct way that you're talking about, like, you know, no metaphors or whatever, just saying my mind, almost a bit of a nihilistic view onto a society of apathy, if you will. Is there, however, because I know that you've mentioned in other interviews that it was at times challenging growing up in a very religious household. Are there some of those things seeping underneath the surface in songs like that?
Like Smile?
Yeah.
There's definitely songs on the album that do have that. I'm trying to think. I feel like right to my head. Smile isn't actually one that people usually ask about the lyrical content of, so it's interesting that you say that, and also bring up the stuff in regards to my family, because that is definitely in a kind of undercurrent. I think Smile speaks to a wider, it's almost like in Future Lovers, I embodied these different characters as I was writing. So I would speak from a perspective of saying, this is what you should do, this is what's good, but it wouldn't always be like the actual core message that I think. Sometimes I'm kind of embodying the devil on your shoulder. That's like, hey, go fuck yourself up. Just give yourself over to the abuse of everything and do the fuck shit that entices you. And when you hear that voice come through in the album, it's kind of alluring and seductive, and it has this vibe to it that's arrogant and trying to lure you in, I guess. And so in songs like Smile, it's definitely, it's almost saying like, yeah, go just waste your time, waste your money, go get drunk, go get wasted, do all this stuff, because that's what it feels like when you're engaging in that. You never feel like the bad guy. You're never like, I'm going to go do something bad for myself and I'm going to hate myself for it. You're usually just like, oh no, this will be okay. You convince yourself that it's going to be all good. So I feel like Smile definitely does that, and it also just like speaks to the age and the generation of just being like, oh, all this stuff is going on, we'll just kind of ignore it and go do whatever we do because we don't know, it's just too overwhelming.
No one wants to die, but we want to see the sunlight. Keep that smile 'cause it won't.
Going from pretty strict religious household to I'm a tattooed wrestler that sings in a very weird rock band, that's a bit of a leap, right? So like, it is do people around you from in your personal life get it more now, or is that not the case?
I'm gonna change my Instagram bio to a tattooed wrestler in a very weird rock band after this interview, because that was absolutely great. But yeah, I think, you know, it's interesting. There's this post on my Facebook, which I might share it to my Instagram story at some point, but I don't want to overuse it. But there was this guy sent me a message, and he's like a famous pastor in America. He's a writer, and he like is like a preacher over there who like writes all these books and has a lot of very bad opinions and very like just homophobic, like just shitty horrible takes on the world. And anyway, he knew me through somehow, like through my family when I was over there, because I used to go over to America, so he knew who I was. And one day he just sent me like this random message, and it was basically like, one day your tattoos are gonna fade, and he was like, and all the drugs and alcohol, which he doesn't even know he's just assuming. He's like, all the drugs and alcohol and all these things that you're doing, they're gonna destroy you, and one day you're gonna wake up and realize that you'll only ever have 1,600 listeners, and all this massive message, like, and I'm going to be praying for you, but I'm going to try and pray you to the pig pen, whatever that means. But anyway, I posted this on my Facebook, and I was basically like, man, this guy's a leader. People shouldn't be talking like this. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm fine, but he might say that to someone else, and that might cut them in the knees. And I experienced these type of people all the way through. But anyway, I've got this thread on my Facebook where I posted it, and it got all this attention. And then now, every year or so, when a big milestone or something happens, I'll go in the comment threads and I'll tag him and I'll say, hey Bradley, just letting you know our new album comes out, and with an update on our monthly listeners. And it's just like a funny thing to me, but so many people have seen it, and like I find it comical because he gets all angry about it. So we have this back and forth. But a lot of people have come out and actually talked about it and DM'd me and started having this conversation around religion and around how it's affected them growing up, and around healthy ways to engage with it and communicate it. And a lot of people, even people who are Christians or from different faiths, would still condemn the type of behavior that I guess he does, and can get stuff like what we're doing. So I think, yeah, definitely there's still people from that world that I grew up in that would hate and, you know, not understand what we're doing. But I feel like on some levels, especially in my own family, things have changed so much from being in a family that was like, if you ever do this, you'll be excommunicated from the family, to now my dad will come to my shows when we're in New Zealand. And that's huge. Like, that just wouldn't happen. But there's an understanding of while he might not agree with all the things we talk about, all the things I do, much like I don't agree with a lot of the things that they do, we've been able to use, in some ways, the art to change some of those things. And he can say, you know what, I think you're doing something good here, and I think I can see the bigger picture. And now I can see him out in the crowd, and we've got such a different relationship from going to a point where we didn't even talk to each other to now being able to have that kind of connection. And I think that, that comes from both of us understanding each other better. And I think that music and things like what we're doing can help bridge some of those gaps. If people are willing to listen and willing to change.
I don't feel alone, I'm just cold. I don't have my pieces on my soul, need to go die.
On that hopeful note of how music brings people together, and you know, let's look ahead at you guys having that platform to do that and taking your platform on the road as well. I know you've got a tour starting very soon in New Zealand, a couple of shows. What can the fans expect then? Are there any more international ventures that we should keep our eyes open for?
Yeah, I mean, over the next 3 years, we'll definitely be in America. We'll be back in Europe. We'll be back to the UK. We'll be in Europe. We'll be back to the UK. And we've obviously got a big regional run of Australia. We'll be doing some headline shows in Australia. We're basically just going to be trying to stay on the road nonstop and just get out there and play to as many people as possible. Our music is written for the live show. The live show is always in mind from the start to finish of our writing. And so I think, the fans can expect a lot of high energy. Whether we're playing to 3 people or 3,000 people, we always bring the same energy. It doesn't matter, because to us it's about connecting with the people that we're in front of, and whoever's in front of us, whoever's willing to support, it's what we've always done, and it's what we will always do. So that kind of energy, I guess, is what people can expect.
Awesome. Joshua, keep pushing those buttons of all the gatekeepers and all the haters, and keep bringing people together. I really hope I get to see you guys play up here also in Canada when you come to North America. And again, congratulations on your release day. I hope you, you've already done the workout. I hope the PR today is not too bad, so you can also just take a step back and just enjoy the moment and engage with all the fans and your team members. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I wish you the best with the release of this album.
Thanks a lot, mate. You have a lovely one.
awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.